Hello, everyone. I am Storyteller. Thank you for visiting this peaceful place. I know you are looking for something soothing to help you fall asleep, and I am here to accompany you. If you enjoy, please give me a like and subscribe, and let me know where you are from. Thank you. The Guinea Pigs. Dr. Travers ticked all the boxes on my consent form, and peering over his glasses, assured me an arm transplant was standard practice. I perform 10 a day, he said, handing me the paperwork. They're a piece of cake. Really? For sure, he said, indicating where to sign. It's just brain surgery that gives me a headache. Stella. The anesthetist rolled her eyes, sighed, and asked if I'd any allergies. None, I replied, scanning the small print. That's just perfect, she said, clearing her throat. Would you prefer gas and air, or the full works? What's the norm? I said, catching her eye. That depends, she smiled. Are you squeamish? Chowza. When I signed up for military service 5 years ago, I'd selected the BAGS health insurance option. Biologically Accelerated Growth Systems, or BAGS, for short, was a third-party company pioneering an experimental limb replacement scheme. The government initiated the idea, and the Ministry of Defense embraced the concept to counteract the ongoing threat of IEDs. In the event of a severe injury or amputation, they promised us rapid treatment and substitute limbs. All they required from volunteers were 2 pints of blood and sufficient genetic material to cultivate a trauma clone in their body farm. It made sense, and I had nothing to lose, hopefully. I have to admit that the lure of the extra pay motivated me when I signed the forms. Any potential injuries gained in active combat were far from my mind, and further complications seemed a remote possibility. It was during the 6 months of basic training I discovered no one else had enrolled for the BAGS insurance policy. Perhaps everyone reckoned the scheme was just a gimmick. Maybe I'd misread the caveat on the consent form about transplanting living tissue. I mean, it never occurred to me I'd meet the limb donor face to face. Tutua, my last tour of duty, occurred in April 2015. Around the time, jihadist fighters released a video of the ancient city of Nimrud erupting in a cloud of dust and smoke. They attacked its priceless sculptures and frescoes with sledgehammers and power tools, then detonated the 3,000-year-old Assyrian ruins. The wanton demolition came amidst a wave of attacks on Allied forces in Iraq. I lost my left forearm in Nasiriyah, about 360 clicks south-southeast of Baghdad, near the ruins of the ancient city of Ur. Sergeant Albury snagged his boot tip on a tripwire and didn't stand a chance. He was toast in an instant, poor sod. I was next in line, and the landmine's devastating blast threw me across the street. So much for the cradle of civilization. There was little below my left shoulder when I regained consciousness in the field hospital's ICU. The duty surgeon said I was under the knife for 10 hours and told me I was lucky to be alive. He expected a full recovery, having extracted a bucket of the shrapnel from my vital organs, although he expected roving fragments to surface over time. "If you have any further issues," he said, picking his teeth, "I'm sure your regiment's medics will sort you out." Yeah, right, I thought. But you know what? He wasn't wrong. A serious-minded BAGS employee in an expensive suit attended my bedside the following day and explained the benefits of my policy. He presented a convincing case for urgent action and applied for a consultation on my return to base. I waited 6 weeks for an appointment to discuss my suitability for a limb transplant. Dr. Travers was frank. Either he operated forthwith, or I faced an interminable desk job back at HQ and no more active duty. "Are there any risks?" I asked. "The odds of rejection are slim," he said, frowning, "but better than your career prospects as a shorthand typist." "Point taken," I said, considering my disadvantage. Dr. Travers glossed over the matter of sourcing and matching a spare limb. "It's not all about physical compatibility," he said. "There's the psychological aspect to consider." I recall biting my lip when he explained a typical post-op response. "It'll be disconcerting and may feel as if it doesn't belong to you," he said. "However, just remember, an unfamiliar appendage is far better than the alternative." I'd no time to worry about the details because my allotted day in the operating theater happened within 48 hours. I didn't sleep the night before and entered the theater feeling lightheaded, having followed the nil-by-mouth instruction beforehand. Stella performed her last checks before a nurse handed me a surgical gown, and Dr. Travers scrubbed his hands while we waited for the trauma clone. The freezing cold hiatus on my back in the theater, wearing only a starched cotton gown, was the longest hour of my life. I was covered in goosebumps and shivering from a cold sweat when a masked nurse poked a gurney through the theater's swing doors. She appeared without a drum roll or fanfare, as if she was shoving a burdensome shopping trolley out of a supermarket. The nurse halted parallel to my surgical table, kicked down the brakes, and whipped off the thin sheet to reveal my doppelganger's naked body. It was wired up to a cluster of electrical body monitor pads and strapped down to the metal bed with sturdy leather belts. The left arm sported thick red pre-surgery symbols that looked like a gang member's colors and hanged loose and lifeless above the linoleum. He lay motionless beside me, staring past a bloated plasma bag that dangled aloft and fed blood to an intravenous cannula. Dr. Travers raised his arms and cracked his knuckles and nodded at Stella. She wasted no time and administered a heavy dose of propofol. I remember her asking me to count down from 10, but don't recall getting past 7. When I regained consciousness, my body double was still next to me, an exact copy, except now the left arm was missing, and there was a sutured wound below the shoulder. His eyelids were closed and motionless, except for an occasional REM flutter, and his chest rose and fell in even-paced undulations, as if operated by mechanized bellows. On closer inspection, the trauma clone was nothing like me. There were neither scars and stretch marks, nor any signs of life's long-term damage. The left arm I'd received was similar in size and shape to my original. I mean, I thanked God for my replacement, despite needing months of gym work to strengthen it. Yes, size-wise, it was a splendid match, and Dr. Travers had done a remarkable job. It's just that, well, I don't know. I guess I'll miss that barbed wire tattoo circling my forearm, and all my ginger freckles too. My ex-wife used to love those silly brown spots. "Nobody's perfect," she'd say. If only she knew she could see me now. The adoption process takes time, Dr. Travers said during our meeting a week later. You ought to be home soon, and you'll adjust in a few weeks. Will it ever feel like mine? I said, flexing my stiff new fingers. Of course, he said, cleaning his spectacles. Besides, I'm only a phone call away if you need reassurance. Dr. Travers couldn't guarantee the pairing process would work, and I had to be prepared for rejection. He outlined likely symptoms in case the donor's hand didn't marry up with my nervous system. It was a long month in the BAGS Institute while I acclimated to my new limb. I followed the physio's guidelines for recovery and adhered to her plan, exercising as much as possible. The Institute's layout was straightforward. The building supported 8 levels, and most floors contained glass-partitioned offices. As far as I knew, the first floor contained the surgical theater and recovery wards, and the windowless ground floor housed the gym, storage units, and a boiler room. My first floor ward was empty, and I was alone most days, apart from Nurse Winter's morning welfare visits and meal deliveries, and Dr. Travers' weekly progress checks. I seldom encountered any other members of staff on any of the 8 floors, and met nobody in the gym, pool, or sauna facilities. Apart from intermittent security patrols, there were only a couple of employees engaged in gardening and exterior maintenance work. It was on my last day that we had a power cut, and the building lost its heat and lighting. I was exiting the gym at the time, cast into darkness by the occurrence, and strayed down an unfamiliar corridor. It was about 10 minutes before the green overhead emergency lights kicked in, by which time I found myself in one of the storage units. Somehow, I'd bypassed the security system in the outage and found myself lost in a maze of boxes, sealed containers, and cargo bays. I admit being disorientated by the experience. However, a sudden thought occurred. Until that moment, I'd never considered my trauma clone's whereabouts. Where was he? And what condition was he in? Was there accommodation here? Dr. Travers had led me to believe the Institute looked after and supported my trauma clone. So, why had he forbidden me to talk to him or make contact? I was pondering these questions as I meandered down a gentle sloped vehicle access ramp into the basement. As soon as I entered the lower corridors, I heard a low, stuttering hum of clicks and splutters. I thought it was a chattering mechanical turbine spluttering to life. I was wrong. The noise had an organic quality and enveloped me in slow pulses, like surf dissolving between fractured seashells on a distant shore. I stumbled onwards in the pale amber glow until I could advance no further. The light was emanating from translucent ceiling panels within a glass-walled room. Below it stood motionless figures connected to an upper gantry by a complicated loom of feeding tubes and electrical sensor cables. Life support systems, I imagined. The figures all shared similar characteristics, but differed somewhat in musculature, as if they were cuttings taken from a parent and propagated at staggered intervals. They were all naked and standing in equally spaced rows and columns, like life-sized chess pieces, awaiting a call to arms. There were at least 20 of them, all staring ahead with uncomprehending, glazed eyes and indifferent expressions. The wretched creatures were like a herd of cattle grazing in a pasture, oblivious to time and tide, and at the mercy of unknown assailants. I advanced towards the glass wall, and the closest figure's head turned to face me. It was obvious from his missing limb and sutured shoulder that we'd met before. There was a spark of recognition in those dilated pupils, like a dim, flickering light from a dying star. He edged forward as far as his tethers would allow, and raised his right arm in painful increments. All the while, those black pools of artificial existence held their intense, unflinching gaze. His fingertips reached to their full extent, like an unfurling leaf, and stroked the surface of the glass between us. I placed my left hand on the transparent surface and spread my fingers. Without so much as a blink, he mimicked my gesture. Our raised palms mirrored each other, either side of the shatterproof glazing. My hand flinched, as if gripped by its rightful owner, or some vestigial impulse dictated its movement. I hesitated for more than a minute as it twitched and writhed of its own accord. I lowered my eyes, tearing myself from his pitiable stare. 15 millimeters separated us, and yet we were worlds apart, as if we were distant relatives meeting in some parallel universe. I imagined some warmth in his palm and supposed his instinctive gesture was meant to keep me there. He turned away and returned to his designated position amongst all my other clones. They were all looking at me now. My back spasmed with an intense, muscular shiver, as if I'd felt an icy blast. It was impossible to remain there with all those pairs of eyes judging me. I rubbed my hands together for warmth as I walked away, and I realized my clone wasn't born. He was created. He hadn't emerged from nature. The Institute reared and propagated him from cells which they'd nurtured to a mature specimen. That notion should have consoled me, but it didn't. Dr. Travers was adamant. The trauma clone didn't have a life as such. No family, no memories, and no real concept of a world outside. That was how he told me to frame the situation. "You're lucky," he said. "Not everyone has a chance to replace all their vital organs." I felt sick, looking down at my left arm afterwards, and recalled that awful stump on my doppelganger. Now, I'd encountered him in person. It felt as if I'd been caught red-handed, receiving stolen goods, and by chance met the lawful owner. "Don't worry about it," Dr. Travers said, placating my concerns. I couldn't be at peace with the notion, but I accepted he was right. How else could I live with myself, knowing that the trauma clone's only function was to donate spare parts? There was a guard of honor as I departed that evening, and I wondered what would happen if my trauma clone escaped. Would he survive in the outside world, or just succumb to nature's mercy, like a domesticated pet that's lost its natural instincts? As I walked across the deserted compound to my vehicle, I couldn't imagine returning here unless the worst happened. I supposed I'd only meet my trauma clone again if I was unlucky during my next tour in the Middle East. But who knows? They hadn't patched me up to stare at a PC all day, aka you're awake. Bit sooner than expected, but oh well, must have got the strength wrong. I'm not exactly experienced with using chloroform, only tried it twice so far, and once was on myself. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, but how else was I supposed to see if it worked? Amazed it did, to be honest. Thought it was just a movie thing, but it gave me the best sleep I've had in years. Kenji, too. Doesn't look like it did much for you. You were only out for about 3 hours. Your eyes look like shit. Crusty and bloodshot. Lucky for you, she won't care. It'll probably excite her more. Maybe it's because you're so fit. I mean, this body of yours is impressive. Is this what you call a six-pack? And what's with the arms? How did they get that big? Wasn't expecting it, to be honest. Couldn't tell in the baggy shirt and pants they make you wear. What's a ripped dude like you doing working for a second-rate pizza shop in the middle of nowhere anyway? Shouldn't you be a model or something? Gonna make me look bad, man, when she gets a load of you. I'm going to have to stick to less impressive specimens, like Kenji, the tourist. Skinny arms, you know, bird-like chest. I didn't feel so bad about my weight compared to him. But bodies like yours give me a complex. Oh, don't worry. I know it's a bit off-putting, waking up naked, tied to a chair in the company of a male. It's fine. I'm completely straight. You don't have to worry or be embarrassed. Not that you ever are, I bet. Why would you be? You're a beast. And I don't want this to sound like sour grapes or anything. But why is your thing so huge? I thought that was also a movie thing. Different kind of movie. But damn. So much for all things being created equal. She'll probably get a kick out of that. Meal, not a snack, right? I'd be worried about it if I thought she was the shallow type. But she's not. This is only the second time we've done this. But I know she doesn't care about stuff like that. And even if she did, what could I do? I'm not doing this because I want to. I have to, because I love her. And if I can't give her what she needs, it's my duty to find someone who can. Gotta keep your girl happy, right? And she really enjoyed herself with Kenji, even if he was a bit weedy. Took her time with him too. It was amazing to watch. I mean, it was sickening too, but I couldn't look away. And as long as she was getting what she needed, I was happy. You should have seen her when she was done. She was glowing and grateful. I'm the one she spent the night with after. It was so good. Being in bed with her, feeling her body next to mine, caressing her hair, having sex, made the sacrifice worthwhile. Made me want to do it again. And that's where you come in. Delivering a pizza to a paddy field farm at the top of Akiota Valley isn't the only useful task you're going to perform today. And what are you looking at? Oh, sorry. Should have put that out of sight. Yeah, it's a ball gag. But don't worry. Like I said, I'm straight. I haven't kidnapped you for some weird sex game. The gag is for her. My girl. Yeah, I know. That sounds kinky. And I suppose it is. But not in the way you think. It's just, there are things I can't give her, or things I can't get from her. So after she's indulged, after she's finished, unfortunately she has to wear that gag to be with me. But never mind all that. That's personal. I need to get on with the messy part of the proceedings. I want to make sure she enjoys her time with you. So it needs to be just the way she likes it. So you're going to have to forgive me for what comes next. Shit, look at the time. She'll be up soon, and she's going to be starving. She's a different person when she's hungry. You'll see when you meet her. Not going to lie, it's not a pretty sight. Takes some getting used to. But once she's eaten, well, it's a different story. She's an absolute angel then. Divine. Hey, why are you starting to struggle? Oh, I get it. You're getting the picture. Yeah. Kenji figured it out too. He completely lost it, though. You're much more composed. Testing the ropes, shifting around. Chair is bolted to the floor, in case you can't tell. You can't get out. Now stop. No point trying to shout. Sounds ridiculous through the gag, and nobody's going to hear you. This is my grandmother's house, and it really is in the middle of nowhere. You must have noticed that on your way here, wondering how the fuck you were going to get away with delivering a cold pizza. Town is pretty deserted, right? Total dump. Never thought I'd end up stuck on a farm in the backwoods of Hiroshima, but that's my mother for you. Excels at ruining my life. Though having said that, if she hadn't made me come here to look after Oba-chan, I never would have found my true love. No, there's no point staring at the ceiling either. Dear old Oba-chan isn't going to stick her head through and ask if you'd like a cup of sake. No. For one thing, the stroke robbed her of the ability to get around on her own, and for another, she'd be more likely to snap at you for making noise. Then roll out a list of damn chores. Tidy the kitchen, cut some wood, build a fire, feed the chickens, muck out the pigs, clean the bathroom. Or she'd tell you she needed the bedpan again. Or worse, a cleanup of the passage between her legs. So disgusting. Can't believe I put up with that for 2 months. You're honestly lucky you don't have to listen to it, man. Or smell it. We're both lucky she's not here anymore. So don't waste your time making a fuss. Until Aka gets here, we're alone. Now, I gotta head outside for a bit. Don't hurt yourself trying to escape. Those knots are good. Trust me. I was a scout for years. Not to mention a band geek and shogi player. My mother stuck me in as many after-school clubs as she could, so she didn't have to spend any time with me. You know how it is, right? Have a kid to get away, then the kid gets in the way. Anyway, back in a minute. Sorry about that. Didn't realize how heavy this would be. Filled it up too much, I think. Oh, relax. Your eyeballs look like they're going to pop out of your head. I know how it looks, but this is not for you. Trust me, you're not going to be left to decompose in a rusty metal barrel in a rice field. It's like the sex thing. You've got me all wrong. I'm not a murderous pervert. I'm 17, for fuck's sake. I listen to baby metal and play Fortnite. I'm a nerd, a fat geek, with no friends. Well, I used to be. Until I met Akka. Now I have more than a friend. Someone I care about, who appreciates me for who I am, not how I look. I'm sure you don't understand how rare that is. How could you? Mr. Adonis. Okay. Look, I apologize in advance for how this is going to smell, and oh yeah, there we go. Whoa, that's worse than I expected. Maybe I should have left the lid off. Fuck. Thought I was going to throw up for a second there. Okay, gloves on for this. You okay? Look a little green. Probably for the best you have that gag on. Or maybe that's making it worse. I don't know. I'll be quick anyway. It's just a big vat of pig shit, chicken shit, and basic sludge from the rice fields. Filth, right? I'm sorry, but when we talk about kinks, I guess this is the biggie. For Akka, I mean, not me. Hell no, I'm not into this shit. Pardon the pun. Really does it for her though. She loves it. She needs it. And like I said, I can't give it to her. Not like this. Not with added sweat and bodily excretions. And yeah, sorry about that also. But you're going to be excreting a lot. Don't worry. I've seen it all before. It's fine. AKA, we'll clean it up. And honestly, once she's on top of you, you're not going to care what comes out. This is really disgusting. I apologize. I'm just going to keep dumping it on, not going to rub it in anywhere. Didn't have to do this with Oba-chan or Kenji. Oba-chan supplied her own filth. The filth I left her lying in for days. Just couldn't bring myself to clean her anymore. And I was busy getting to know Akka, so, you know. And Kenji got filthy in the fields. Spotted him out there taking photos of our resident ibis. Hadn't really started looking for anyone at that stage. But when I saw him there, all on his own, I just decided to give it a go. Soaked a rag in chloroform and went out to be friendly. Not sure what tipped him off, something was up, but he saw it coming before it hit his face, and he made a run for it. Didn't get far. Fields are too marshy to run in. Went down hard and got covered in muck. So that was enough. No additional basting needed. Ha. Sorry. I know it's not funny. I know this smells and feels awful. But I think I'm done. Now I just need to run a trail of it from you to the bathroom. It's almost 9. She'll be waking up in there now, making her way out of the tub. I feel like I should explain. I didn't with Kenji, and he almost ripped his arms to get free when Akka came out. I had to hold him still until she got going. Would rather not have to do that with you. So maybe if I prepare you, that will help. Was fine with Oba-chan. Apart from her lack of mobility, she knew all about Akka. It wasn't a surprise to her at all. Of course, she knew her. She's the one who kept her locked in the bathroom all these years. She deserved what she got. My mother deserves it too. She knew. She helped. And then lying to me about what I saw that first time I met her. Telling me it was my imagination, and I didn't really see an emaciated, corpse-like girl thrashing around on the wet room floor, licking up grime. I was only 7, but I could have helped. I could have done something, maybe gotten her out. But my mother didn't bring me back after that. Didn't want to ever come back at all. But then Oba-chan had her stroke, and she had no choice. Well, she did. She had me. Fuck my mother, man, you know. Dropping me off to look after the old bitch, ruining my summer. She said I had to do it because she couldn't get out of her work trip to France. Potential new client, big project, huge for the company, the usual bullshit. I thought it was because she didn't want to have to take care of the old bat, because she hated her or was afraid of her. I never knew which. Now I know it had more to do with Akka. She didn't want to deal with her either, which makes her more of a selfish bitch than I ever thought. I don't even know if she's coming back. Haven't heard from her since she left. Barely hung around more than an hour, just long enough to make sure I knew where everything was, and to remind me how to clean the fucking bathroom. I really didn't get it. What the big deal was with that. Constantly hosing it down and scrubbing the walls. But I remembered it was the same when I was a kid. Remembered that summer when I was home alone and I went to play in the fields, got covered in mud, and traipsed it back, made a complete mess, left the bathroom covered in dirt, left it in a state that lured her out. I didn't see her getting out on that occasion, just heard a noise in the bathroom later when I went to the toilet, opened the connecting door to check it out, and there she was, flailing around on the floor, licking up the dirt I'd left behind. I can't tell you if I was scared or not, because I don't remember. I don't think I was. And she didn't hurt me. She just kept licking. And I kept watching, rooted to the spot in the open door, until Oba-chan and my mother came home. My mother dragged me away. Oba-chan grabbed a mop and charged into the wet room. I don't know what happened that night. I let my mother convince me I had a fever and was hallucinating. Let her convince me I never saw Akka. But I did. And I hate that I let myself be tricked. If somebody had taken care of her, maybe she wouldn't have ended up so full of hate, in such bad condition. How could you blame her? Trapped beneath a bathtub for decades, or longer. Who knows how long she's been there? ever since Obachan inherited this place anyway, in the 60s, long after the war. And yes, the land was still radioactive, but the bomb didn't make Akka. She existed before that, long before. She doesn't talk, and she can't tell me exactly, but I know from my research she's immortal. All Yayokai are. They just get forgotten, shut away, alone, lost in limbo, until something explosive rips the veil between worlds and sets them free, free to be kept prisoner somewhere else. But I'm changing that. Ever since I found out she was real, when I stopped cleaning the stupid bathroom for hours every day, like that bitch demanded, scrub the bathtub, hose the walls, mop the floor. That's how they kept her imprisoned. And a couple of days after I stopped doing it, she got out. It was like all those years ago. Went for a piss one night. Heard something moving in there. This time, it didn't surprise me at all. It just made me sad. AKA loves filth. It's what she thrives on. Cleanliness is kryptonite to her. Hygienic conditions, sanitized surfaces. She can't breathe in an environment like that. It isn't fair. You know what else isn't fair? Her full name. Akaname, they call her. Filth liquor. Can you believe it? The indignity. Naming her that just because of her nature? It's like people calling me hideous when my name's Hideo. I don't know why Obachan decided to keep her a prisoner. If she'd just taken time to get to know how she works. So what if she bubbles up like sludge from the plug hole? So what if she needs to digest dirt to take form? So what if her saliva is acidic? Let her lick all the dirt she wants, then hose the residue down. It makes her better. Her body. The more filth she consumes, the better it gets. Fully formed. Beautiful. I've seen it now, twice. After she licked Obachan clean, and Kenji licked away their dirt, their skin, their organs, licked everything up, then swallowed their gore-covered bones. It's amazing what she can do. Doesn't leave a trace. For someone who loves filth, she knows how to leave things spotless. And as long as you stay away from her mouth, you can do anything you want with her, all night, until the straw comes up and she melts and goes back down the pipe. Can you hear her in there? Sounds like something wet and sloppy thrashing around. But it's like I said, she's a bit of a mess at the start. A pile of mush, you could say. But just wait. Wait till she licks all this shit off the floor. You'll see her body grow, and by the time she gets to you, she'll look half human. Those eyes, that hair, those breasts, that long, sinuous, acid-dripping tongue. It'll hurt at first, I won't lie. And seeing your foot dissolve in her mouth will drive you crazy. But the pain won't last. I saw it with Oba-chan and Kenji. By the time she'd devoured one leg and looked like a fully formed girl, they didn't even feel it anymore. Her beauty takes away the pain, and she is beautiful for a time after she's eaten. The most beautiful girl in the world. But you'll have to take my word for that. You'll never see it. She'll make you feel like the most important person in existence, but you're not. I'm the one who feeds her. I'm the one who loves her. I'm the one who holds her through the night, after she's feasted on filth like you and Oba-chan and Kenji and my mother. If she ever comes back, she'll get hers for leaving my Aka to suffer. Aka's my girl, and she's never going to be alone again. Now, I think she can come out. Are you ready to meet her? Here we go, then. Oh yes, there she is. There's my girl. Can you see? Even like this. Isn't she lovely? Hello, my beautiful Aka. Dinner is served. The Christmas queen. A frozen blanket of ice glazed the roads on Fern Street as the Wallace family headed home from a busy day of shopping. The houses were adorned with multicolored lights, and blow-up decorations were as far as the eye could see. Every door had a festive wreath to showcase the spirit of the season, and carolers sang songs of merry for all to hear. Yes, my friends, it was Christmas Eve once again, a time when boys and girls dream of toys and candy, and parents wish for peace on earth. Even grandparents put their worries away and enjoy watching their loved ones celebrate the traditions they have passed down through the years. There was no doubt about it. The holidays have always brought joy to the entire world. As John Wallace pulled into the driveway, he noticed his neighbor, Ben Foster, hanging his Christmas lights. He parked his blue, reindeer-decorated Subaru, looked at his wife, Martha, and said, "It's a little late to be hanging lights, isn't it?" Martha took a sip of her hot chocolate and rasped, "Oh, give him a break. Ben's getting older, and ever since his wife, Alice, passed away a few years ago, he hasn't been the same." John lifted his brow and shrugged. "Yeah, but all things considered, don't you think it's a little counterproductive?" He looked at Ben and continued, "I mean, after Christmas, all this stuff has to come down, so what's the point?" "He likes to be included," Martha said. "Alice used to decorate that house every year, so I suppose he wants to honor her memory." "Humph," John huffed. He looked in the back seat to see his 12-year-old daughter, Sarah, glued to her phone. "Hey, kiddo, we're home. You want to go over and help Ben put up his lights?" Sarah removed her earbuds and snapped, "What? Do you wanna? I heard what you said, Dad." Sarah's words cut deeply. Why should I do that? Martha put her hot beverage in the cup holder and spoke firmly. Sarah, we don't need that attitude right now. It's Christmas, so why don't you lend some good cheer and help our neighbor? We have to put these groceries away anyway. You can watch your TikTok videos later. Sarah ruffled her face, pinched her lips together, and fired, Fine. John widened his eyes as Sarah exploded from the car. Be good, he said. It's the holidays. The cool air was comforting because Sarah's insides were boiling. She unzipped her pink jacket and removed her black toboggan snow hat. She reached up, parted her brown hair behind her ears, and marched across the snow. Her unicorn boots sparkled in the moonlight, which matched her black leggings. Martha and John gathered their bounty and smiled as their little girl approached Ben. They were glad to see Sarah heed their words because they had some presents to hide, and the distraction was a welcomed surprise. I'm glad to see her do something besides messing with her phone, John said. She's been so distant lately. Yeah, replied Martha. Teens will be teens. She gave Sarah a quick wave and entered the house. Hi, Mr. Foster, Sarah greeted with a quick flutter. Ben was straggling the ladder near his front porch and snapped in another staple to a strand of lights. He nearly fell off when he heard Sarah's voice. When he regained his footing, he looked down and uttered, Oh, you startled me, little one. Sarah looked up and said, Do you need help? My parents sent me over. He cleared his throat, pointed to a box on his porch, and muttered, Well, darling, you could hand me those other lights in that box. It sure would help these old legs of mine. All right, moaned Sarah. She grabbed the lights and noticed a red machine about the size of a lawnmower resting by the sidewalk. She glared at the contraption for a few moments before Ben's voice brought her back to reality. Don't mind that, sweetie, he said. That's just the snowblower. He lowered his hand and grinned. How about those lights? Sarah ran over to the ladder and reached as high as she could until Ben grasped the lights. She watched as he stapled one strand at a time with his shaky hands. This is going to take all night. The access line with the plug dangled beside Sarah like a slithering snake, and she pulled out her phone and began recording. What are you doing? Ben asked. Sarah sighed. I'm recording this moment so I can upload it to my TikTok channel later. She lowered her voice and mumbled, My friends will be so excited to see how boring my life is. What's Tiki Talk? Sarah wrinkled her eyebrows. Really? Don't worry about it. It's just a social media thing. Ha! Don't worry, said Ben. I know all about social media. I watch the news all the time. He continued stapling the lights and began humming jingle bells. The access wire kept creeping along and got tangled around Sarah's boots. She stumbled a bit, but didn't fall. Once again, her attention turned to the snowblower. She grabbed the cord and placed the end of it in the machine's blades. This will show him not to trip me again. This thing should strip all those lights, and then I can go home. She saw a lever on the control panel that said on and pulled it. With a soft hum, the blades engaged, and the loose wire was pulled into the machine. Sarah stepped back and positioned her phone to capture all the chaos. Ben whipped his head like a startled rodent and yelled, "Turn that off." His words were cut short as the looped wire around his neck became taut and flung him off the ladder. His body hung in the air while the snowblower pulled against the stapled lights. He tried to break free, but his old hands didn't have the strength. He gasped for air, but none would fill his lungs. Within seconds, all the life in Ben's writhing body ceased, and his eyes grew cold. "Oh, shit," Sarah gasped, turning off the snowblower. "That was awesome." Later that night, Sarah awoke to flashing red and blue lights shining on her ceiling. And they were not Christmas lights. The police were on the scene, and Sarah watched through her bedroom window as the paramedics took Ben away in a black body bag. Sarah, 1,000 snakes slithered down Sarah's spine when she heard her mother's cry. She ran down the stairs as fast as her little legs would carry her and found her mom and dad sitting at the kitchen table. "Honey," John said with a long, drawn-out tone, "you were with Ben this evening. Did you notice anything strange?" Sarah clasped her hands behind her back and mumbled, No. Are you sure, sweetheart?" Martha asked with tear-filled eyes. "Well," Sarah started, and then paused to scrunch her lips. "I may have done something naughty." She walked closer to the table and leaned against the marbled countertop. John stood up, placed his hand on Sarah's shoulder, and asked, "What did you do?" Sarah fumbled for the right words, but couldn't find them, so she turned her back. "It's all right," John said, looking at Martha. "If you had something to do with what happened tonight, we have to tell the police." "He's right, dear," Martha said. Sarah wrinkled her forehead, clenched her jaw, grabbed a sharp blade from the knife block that was right in front of her, turned, and slashed her father's throat. A thick stream of blood painted Sarah's pink unicorn pajamas, and her mother screamed. John grabbed his severed neck, fell to the floor, and choked on his own blood. "No!" Martha screamed. "What did you do?" Martha ran to John and held him in her arms as he breathed his last breath. When she looked at Sarah through bloodshot eyes, the last thing she saw was the glimmering blade as it penetrated her skull. The blade bit strong and true, and as it pierced Martha's brain, visions of her life flashed by like lightning strikes. And then darkness took her. Sarah gripped the knife and yanked it out of her mother's head. A weary smile crept upon her face as she turned to her phone that she had placed on the countertop earlier. TikTok is gonna love this. Suddenly, Sarah heard footsteps coming from the living room. She grew silent and heard the faint sound of bells jingling in the distance. Out of curiosity, Sarah tiptoed out of the kitchen and peeked around the wall to see a white-bearded man wearing a red suit with black boots putting presents underneath the tree. "Santa?" gasped Sarah. The jolly man turned and bellowed, "Ho, ho, ho!" Sarah ran towards him with the knife held high, and his tone quickly changed. "Ho, ho, ho, oh, no." He grabbed her arm and took the knife away. "Put that away. It's Christmas." "No, you big fat bully," Sarah yelled. "Let me go." Santa looked at Sarah's blood-soaked pajamas and said, "Something tells me you've been a naughty girl this year. I knew I should have checked that list twice. I guess I'm getting a little lazy. I should have listened to Mrs. Claus. She's always right." "What did you do, little girl?" "I'm not telling you," Sarah snapped. He held Sarah's arm and walked into the kitchen, where he discovered the cold bodies of her parents. "Oh, no. You have been a bad girl. What should I do with you?" "Well, this is Christmas, and I think you should come with me until I fly to the police station. You must answer for this crime." "No!" Sarah yelled. "You can't make me do anything." "Ho, ho, ho. I'm Santa Claus, and I will do what's best for you." He grabbed Sarah's arm a little tighter, placed a finger on his nose, and they disappeared up the chimney in a puff of magic smoke. They appeared in Santa's sleigh on the roof, and with a quick dash, they were off flying with his 9 reindeer: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, and Rudolph. Sarah pulled out her phone and pressed the record button. "No one is going to believe this." They flew around for a few minutes before landing on the next roof, and Santa quickly delivered his gifts. When he emerged from the chimney, Sarah folded her arms and scoffed. "I thought you were taking me to jail." "Ho, ho, ho," huffed Santa. "I plan on doing just that after I make a few more deliveries." He laughed, and Sarah couldn't believe that his belly did indeed shake like a bowl full of jelly. It is Christmas, after all, and time is of the essence. He grabbed the reins and said, "Now, hold tight. Here we go." Ho, like a twinkle from a Christmas light, they were off again, soaring through the clouds. Sarah expected to feel the freezing temperatures, but was toasty warm in the sleigh. Santa's red gift bag was neatly tucked in the back seat, and Sarah decided to have a peek. She gave Santa a double take to make sure he wasn't watching her, and untied the thick golden rope around his bag. She raised her eyebrows when a blinding light began to show itself through the opening. The warmth and power caressed her soul. It was a strange feeling. What is this? Ho, ho, ho. It's the Christmas spirit of love, Santa said with a warm smile. It's something that you have closed your heart to. He turned and watched Sarah close the sack. Her droopy eyes and frown showed the beginnings of sorrow. I think people sometimes forget that I know all and see all. It's so annoying. Ho, ho. Santa reached up and patted his white, fluffy beard and continued. What you need to understand is that while this world is filled with hate, there is also hope. Hope to overcome hardship and faith to do good. I believe you have that warmth in your heart, and all you need to do is admit your wrongdoings and let the healing begin. Everyone can change. No words came from Sarah. She sat stone-faced and seemed lost in deep thought. Santa nodded and steered his beloved reindeer to the next house. Not to worry, Sarah. Forgiveness will always be there for you when you want to accept it. As Santa landed on the snow-covered roof, he stood next to the chimney with his red sack of presents and gave Sarah another cheerful look. I won't be long. Our next stop will be the police station, and then your healing can begin. Ho, ho. Sit tight. I'll be right back. He touched his nose, transformed into a dazzling, colorful mist, and swooped down the chimney. He filled the stockings hanging by the fireplace with candy and doodads, and placed a handful of presents under the sparkling tree. A plateful of peanut butter cookies caught his eye before leaving. Oh, my favorite, he beamed. How can I say no? Ho, ho. Santa ate every last crumb and drank the full glass of milk that was left for him. Most people believed that he preferred chocolate chip cookies, but the savory taste of peanut butter was his weakness. Time was getting on, and Santa snorted his way back up the chimney. When he emerged from the smoky funnel, he fell to his knees, and his rosy face turned red. The snow-covered roof was painted blood red, and the reindeer were gathered in a circle, snooting and grunting. As the reindeer parted, Santa saw Sarah sitting on Rudolph's mutilated carcass, eating his red nose. A slight trickle of bright red ichor flowed down her chin. It does taste like a cherry. Santa rose with a clatter and yanked Sarah off of Rudolph. What have you done? His face shook like a bowl full of molded pudding. I thought you could change. I believed you had some good in your heart. Ack! His words were cut short when Sarah quickly slashed his throat with the knife she found in the front seat of the sleigh. Santa should have left it at Sarah's house when he took it from her. But mistakes are habitual. Santa's white, fluffy beard soaked up the blood like a thick towel and turned crimson. His jolly-filled eyes twinkled and rolled back into his head, where visions of Christmas pasts grew dark. His jingle bell knees quivered and gave out, and he collapsed in front of Sarah like a deflated blow-up decoration. Sarah's eyes danced in the bloodshed twilight, and she laughed with a bubbly voice. Ha, 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 ho. Merry Christmas, you fat bastard. You thought you knew what I needed? Well, screw you. She grabbed her recording phone that was positioned on the sleigh, held it up, and said, "To all my TikTok followers and the non-believers, the spirit of Christmas can be killed. That's how you do it, my friends." Sarah stopped recording and noticed the goosebumps forming on her slender arms. Jack Frost was wickedly biting into her bones as the warmth of the Christmas magic faded. Her pink, blood-covered unicorn pajamas were no match for the freezing temperatures, so she ran over to Santa's rotting corpse, removed his heavy red coat, and put it on. The coat was too big for her small frame, but in an instant, Sarah's insides stopped quivering, and a circle of warm, magic dust swirled around her. All at once, the jacket adjusted itself to fit her body perfectly, and Sarah felt a power that only dreams could bring. She heard children's voices and saw their dreams as they slept. Sarah automatically knew who was good and who was bad. There was an overwhelming sense of joy, and she swatted it down with a gust of hatred. Well, who would have thought? Sarah watched as the reindeer instantly took their place by the sleigh, and Prancer gave her a look that would kill most people. "What?" she asked, shrugging her shoulders. "I've always been the love of my own life, and it's only fitting that I become the Queen of Christmas." Sarah knew exactly what to do. Christmas must go on. There was no question about that. But what form would it take? She pulled out her phone again, hit the live stream button on TikTok, and laughed as the number of viewers crossed the billions. With the device held high to capture the perfect angle, Sarah smiled a devilish grin and rejoiced. It's time to spread some Christmas fear, Stargazy Pie. With rumblings of war rolling along the coastline, the knock startled Cecil. His grip tightened on the pewter plates as a sense of foreboding took hold. Opening the door revealed a handsome stranger with refined features, as if carved from marble. He had jet black hair and eyes that glinted like cold steel. "Good evening and Happy Christmas," said the stranger in a rich baritone. "My apologies for the intrusion, but it seems my carriage has lost a wheel just up the road. Might I trouble you for some shelter from the cold while my man fetches assistance?" Cecil hesitated. He had been expecting his brother-in-law. He was struck dumb. Before he could collect his wits, His wife appeared behind him. "Marry a sec?" she asked. Seeing the stranger standing in the door, she apologized. "Sorry, I thought you were me brother. His carriage threw a wheel," Cecil said. "Of course, please come in," Sharon said, nudging her husband aside and opening the door wider. The stranger rubbed down his arms as if to shift rain from his finely tailored long coat. Though wary, Cecil relented under his wife's insistence. As the stranger stepped inside, removing his leather gloves, Cecil couldn't shake the feeling of darkness lurking beneath the polished, genteel surface. He led the man toward the sitting room as Sharon fetched some tea, hoping his instinct was wrong. The man shrugged off his jacket, folded it neatly, and put his Homburg on top. "I'm Cecil, by the way," he added politely. "And you are?" "Moloch. Abraham Moloch," said the stranger with a thin smile as he took a seat by the fire. "A pleasure to make your acquaintance." "What brings you to this part of the coast?" Cecil asked. Sharon returned with a tea tray, casting a reproachful look at Cecil for not taking the stranger's bag or hanging his hat. "Please make yourself comfortable, Mr. Moloch," she said warmly, handing him a cup. Just then, their 2 children peeked into the room, eyes widening at the unfamiliar guest. They had heard rumors of German soldiers landing along the coast and were wary. "The tall one is Felix. The runt is Jasper," Sharon said. She busied herself pouring tea, checking his sack coat. Mr. Moloch's face soured. "I seem to be out of cinder toffees. Bad luck? Perhaps next time." He then opened his bag and pulled out a few colorful Christmas crackers. The children's caution vanished at the sight. "For your little ones," Mr. Moloch said, with a genteel nod, handing the crackers to Sharon. She gave them to the delighted children. The stranger made a show of patting his pockets. "My apologies. I seem to have left my coin purse on my carriage." He turned to Cecil. "Please, take this as a token for your hospitality," he said, offering a large golden ring set with a glittering red gemstone. Cecil politely declined. "That won't be necessary, really. We're happy to help," Mr. Moloch insisted, but Cecil refused once more. Finally, Mr. Moloch returned the ring to his pocket, a flicker of irritation passing over his features before the charming smile reappeared. In her lilting accent, Sharon offered to share their dinner. "There's plenty of Stargazy Pie and stewed greens to go around. 'Tis no trouble," Mr. Moloch accepted graciously. "You are too kind. I apologize for the inconvenience. I'm on my way to London to view a portrait. Please let me contribute. It's not a bother." Moloch's voice rumbled like distant artillery. Cecil imagined the windows rattling. "Oh, nonsense. Travelers are welcome. It wouldn't be Christian of us to turf you out," Sharon said, then turned sharply to the children. "And don't you dare be popping them crackers till supper," she instructed Cecil to fetch an extra place setting and yelled to the kitchen for one of the children to bring the stool, so Mr. Moloch had a place to sit. Leaving to finish the cooking preparations, she tossed a meaningful glance at her husband. With Sharon gone, Mr. Moloch again offered Cecil the ring. "Please, I must insist. Consider it thanks for your hospitality." This time, with no one else present, Cecil accepted it, sliding the ring onto his finger. The red gem glinted in the firelight. Mr. Moloch smiled, leaning back with a smirk. Cecil studied the ring on his hand. It looked expensive. How would he explain this extravagant gift to Sharon? She had refused it just minutes ago. Perhaps he could trade it in the village without her ever knowing. He quickly took it off and put it in his pocket. The family sat down to dinner, with the older boy pushing the stool into Jasper's spot. The smell of fresh bread and fish followed Sharon. Jasper's knees poked up too high, so he stretched his legs out to the sides. "Don't be rockin', Jasp. We've got company." Sharon put her hand on Japer's leg to hold him still. Jasper moved the wiggles up to his shoulders in defiance. "We've got plenty of food. I'm afraid we've mashed together our holidays on account of me brother comin' home from the war. He should be along any time now." Cecil whistled. "Don't mind my wife. She's Cornish and a wee bit potty." Sharon playfully smacked Cecil's shoulder. "You familiar with the story of Tom Bawcock? It's Mariusec's favorite holiday, so we didn't want him to miss out. Would you like me to recount the tale?" Cecil feigned disinterest, having heard it many times before. "It's just a fish tale. I'd love to hear it." Mr. Moloch's eyes opened wide. "Dinner and a show? You are too kind," clearing her throat. Sharon launched into song. "A merry place, you may believe, was Mousehole, 'pon Tom Bawcock's eve. To be there, then, who wouldn't wish to sup o' 7 sorts of fish?" Cecil interjected. "Could you at least sing in plain English, dear?" "I was," Sharon replied indignantly, then laughed at her flustered husband. The children joined in teasing Cecil as she continued. "When Murgy broth had cleared the path, comed lances for a fry. And then us had a bit o' ska, and Stargazy Pie." Mr. Moloch applauded enthusiastically, rising to his feet. "Marvelous. You have a true gift, my dear. Thank you for sharing such a delightful folk tale." Sharon beamed, giving a slight curtsy before urging everyone to tuck into the feast before them. The children reached for the Christmas crackers. Mr. Moloch raised a hand. "Please, allow me to share a tradition from my home. Are you familiar with Snapdragon?" Cecil perked up, recalling playing it as a boy, burning his mouth in the process. He nodded with a grin. From his bag, Mr. Moloch produced a tin of dried fruits and almonds and a bottle of brandy. Using the lid of the tin as a dish, he tapped out a few pieces of fruit and doused them with the brandy. He lit the fruit with a match. They ignited in blue fire. Plucking a piece of dried apple up, he popped it into his mouth, then blew out a small blue flame. The children watched, enthralled. When Felix reached out, Mr. Moloch pulled the tin away. There is a rule to this game, a way to show what you are most thankful for. He turned to Cecil meaningfully. In this dance, with fear and shadow, reveal the ember burning deepest within. Speak not of fleeting joy, but lay bare the pulsating rhythm that makes you feel alive. For in the flicker of this flame, you offer the essence binding you to existence, the marrow of your being. Choose wisely, for what you express in this dance may echo beyond the crackling fire. Cecil tensed, unsettled by the speech. He started to object, but Sharon and the children insisted on playing. Reluctantly, Cecil nodded, hoping it was merely an odd tradition and nothing more. Jasper went first, popping a flaming fig into his mouth and blowing out a wisp of blue flame. "My fossil collection," he declared proudly. Felix blew a slightly larger plume. "My brother, Jasper!" Jasper took a moment to decide if that was an insult, and chose to accept it as so, with a broad, crooked smile. Sharon selected a piece of dried plum, popped it in her mouth, and blew a modest burst of blue. "My singing voice, of course." She put her hand to her mouth. "Blooming hot." Cecil blew a flame and said, "Maintaining our thankful village, with all returned so far from the war." Mr. Moloch inhaled deeply, then exhaled an enormous, writhing blue jet. "Nothing," he uttered in his deep bass. They pulled their Christmas crackers. With a festive popping, a scattering of paper crowns and trinkets spread across the table. But then, Cecil noticed Jasper was gone. On the empty place where Jasper had sat was a letter stating Mariasek had died in the trenches in Le Cateau. Somberly, they had set the extra place for the missing brother, the first casualty of war come to their village. Cecil looked around, confused. Hadn't someone been sitting across from him just a moment ago? He felt bad for his wife. She'd been so upset. It was nice, however, to have a house guest. He also wondered why Felix was using the kitchen stool and not the chair set for his brother-in-law's spirit. But glancing at Mr. Moloch's smiling face, the questions slipped from Cecil's mind. Sharon offered to sing Tom Bawcock's tale in her gravelly voice. Mr. Moloch was eager to hear it. She began, "A merry plaise you may believe was mousel upon Tom Bawcock's eve." Cecil quickly stopped her, feeling something was amiss. Her voice wasn't her best trait. "It's a Cornish tradition about a fisherman during a time of famine who bravely set out in a storm to feed the town where Sharon came up." Mr. Moloch proposed a round of snapdragon, calling it a beloved pagan tradition where you express gratitude. Wary but enticed, Cecil agreed to play, as did an enthusiastic Felix and Sharon. Mr. Moloch turned to Cecil. "As the flames dance, whisper the heartbeat of your existence. Share not what you cherish, but the core defining your breath. What in your soul would you sacrifice to the hungry fire? Felix blew a blue jet. My boxing gloves. Sharon smiled proudly at her son's first true passion. She blew her flame. My son, Felix. Felix beamed. Cecil contemplated a moment before blowing his fiery breath. The proud, strong Royal Navy keeping invaders at bay. As the crackers popped, Sharon let out a wail. Felix was gone. Sobbing, she explained her boy was killed in the German shelling of the coast. He was so fond of Unton fossils after Boxen in Whitby. My apologies for her. It's been a trying time, Cecil said. She'd lost her voice from ceaseless weeping over the past fortnight. Mr. Moloch looked pained. My sincerest regrets at your loss. They sat in silence for a few moments, so Sharon could collect herself. Perhaps a round of snapdragon to lift spirits, Mr. Moloch suggested. My family tradition is to share what we are most thankful for. He turned to Cecil. You know the rules. Speak the fire within, the pulse of your sacrifice. What do you cherish most? Sharon blew a wisp of blue. My lovely home, Cecil contemplated before breathing his flame. My beautiful wife, Mr. Moloch rumbled. Nothing, his jet dwarfing theirs. The crackers popped like artillery fire as Cecil transitioned to sitting with Mr. Moloch in a seaside shack. Cecil drank heavily from the offered brandy, lamenting his wife, his children, his home, his brother. He stared at the letter, telling of his brother-in-law's death. Cecil's memories slipped away like vapor. He regretted not living the life he wanted, blaming the demon drink that stole his wife, kids, and chance to take his place in battle. Mr. Moloch offered dried fruit and a game of snapdragon to lift his spirits. Sacrifice the spark, keeping your flame alive, fueling your dance in shadows, he instructed. Cecil blew a wisp of blue. My health? Mr. Moloch rumbled. Nothing. Then he offered a Christmas cracker. The pop left a hint of black powder in the air. In a bedroom, Mr. Moloch sat beside Cecil. They played again, Cecil sacrificing his only prized possession, the ring sitting heavy in his pocket. Mr. Moloch blew out a large flame and crunched into his almond, then said, Nothing. Cecil stood to pull the cracker. Mr. Moloch assisted Cecil's palsied hand. A pop and a wisp of smoke. Cecil reached for the flaming fruit, blew out a flame. My home. They pulled the cracker together. Mr. Moloch offered his coat to Cecil, a destitute man on the roadside. He pulled a table and chairs from the back of his broken coach, then invited Cecil to share some Stargazy Pie while his carriage was repaired. Cecil recognized the pie and table. Memories of his wife and children flooded back. He despaired at their loss. The rancid pie at the end of Cecil's ordeal seemed a mockery, stale remnants of a life freely sacrificed to an insatiable demon. Despite this, The food was more than welcome. Each bite revealed years of life, each crumb a precious scene. He ate at his memories as a starved man. Please return all as it was. I refuse to play Snapdragon any longer, he pleaded. Mr. Moloch just smiled. One final cracker. He shook the cracker enticingly. Cecil cried, My life. I'd trade my life for theirs. Finally, Mr. Moloch uttered, holding out the cracker. This time, Cecil got the bigger half. Dreadful luck, Cecil. He set the paper crown atop Cecil's head. Strands of Cecil's hair drifted onto Mr. Moloch's sleeve. Cecil sat numbly as Mr. Moloch brushed off the fallen hair, gingerly placing one in his front vest pocket. You traded your life, family, and youth for a ring. Then, even the ring you returned. When will humans learn to give selflessly? But what of my children's souls? Cecil asked, his voice frail, but insistent. Their bodies, I can find a use. Their souls are their own, replied Moloch, tapping his finger to his lips. You know, I never ask for children, yet I'm often offered them. Perhaps you know why humans so eagerly trade their future. Cecil had a coughing fit. I am not heartless, spiritually, added Moloch. I can offer you one last challenge, a gift if you answer a riddle. But you would not know the gift beforehand. Having nothing left, Cecil accepted the challenge. This one was from a Canaanite whom I knew several lifetimes ago. In every heartbeat and every sigh, I'm the reason you laugh and the tears you cry. From the first cry of newborn breath to the quiet stillness at death's edge. What am I? Moloch adjusted his hat and waved to his coach. I am expected in London to collect a portrait of a young man. It seems its owner has withered away in a locked room. The damn fool. He smiled. Souls aren't typically my business, but that fellow. Please let me think in silence. Moloch shrugged. Life, Cecil said, sure of his answer. Please give me my family, my wife, Jasper. I beg you, I want peace. Please, I have given up everything. Correct, Moloch said. He handed Cecil a draft. If you drink it, none of this would matter. He waved his hands theatrically. Far out at sea, a ship was on fire. The scent of gunpowder and death rolled over the seaside like a fog. Cecil was caught by hope's web. He imagined he'd wake with his family by his side. So he drank without hesitation. The blue liquid smelled of blueberries and spirits. The flavor was a simple, mildly floral sweetness, but empty, like drinking a hole. He was alone, holding an empty bottle. He began a long, quiet walk down a dark road. A carriage passed within a beautiful voice rang out. A merry plays you may believe was mousel upon Tom Bawcock's eve. To be there Then wooden wesh, to sup, o sibm sorts o fesh. When Morgie broth had cleared the path, comed lances for a fry, and then us had a bet and Stargazy Pie. Nex cummed for mods, brathusti jods, as mod are oozles, dry, and ling and hock, enough to make a raunen shark to sigh. A H wid clunk as elth were drunk, and bumpers bremen why. And when up come Tom Bawcox, nam we praised unto the sky. 2 boys waved from the carriage window at the old man wearing a paper crown. Cecil smiled at them as they passed. On 25th December, an unofficial truce was declared along the Western Front. Peace for a day. Perhaps Moloch was not entirely heartless. Cecil did ask for peace. The darkness. Darkness is upon us, Will. Throw me another log for the fire, would you? Father Beacon requested. There is no moon tonight, so we must remain vigilant at all times. On the morrow at daybreak, we shall continue our journey to the safety of Castle Divinity. I questioned not the decision to undertake a journey so late in the day. Father Beacon had successfully trapezed through the forest of Dean on several occasions. However, on each of those times, he had never had to camp in the woods after dark. So, it was surprising to May and our other traveling companion, Lord Benjamin Moore, that Father Beacon would choose to do so on the night of no moon. Now, this is important, Will, so listen carefully. You have first watch, so make sure you feed the flame. Never let it descend to ember state. Is that clear? Yes, Father, I reply. You are aware of the stories of these woods, yes? Indeed I am, Father, I acknowledge. But what exactly should I be aware of? I study Father Beacon as he unfurls a blanket to keep him warm while he sleeps. The stars twinkling above us in the clear night sky equates to a chilly evening. So a blanket tonight is a welcome cover, while the blazing fire lights and warms the small radius of our campsite. The creatures of the night, he replies after a long pause. The abominable. But for as long as you keep that fire burning bright, they will not venture forth from the shadows beyond our glowing pale. Do we have enough wood to burn? I innocently ask. Enough for my sleep, he replies. What after that? Pray that dawn comes before your last log is thrown onto the fire, he chillingly replies, or none of us will see the light again. Now, take a drink of water from my deer bladder. That should last you through the night. I'll keep it safe beside me. I bid a good night to you, Will. My life is in your hands. Make sure you stay awake. Your youthfulness should manage that. I shall, Father. As God is my witness, I will feed the flame's hunger for food. My pledge trails off into the darkness, as Father Beacon quickly succumbs to the exhaustion of this day's arduous long trek on bloated feet and ankles, balancing his heavy frame. Without encouragement, he quickly drops off into a deep sleep. To persuade the fire to throw out some extra heat, I poke at it with a small tree branch stripped bare of its leaves. There is no God, boy. Lord Moore's unsolicited opinion spits at me. We live through this night, and you will understand that, as I do. So, do not fail your duty. Are you not going to keep me company? I ask, hoping for some stimulus assistance to my lonely task. He declines to answer. I watch as Lord Moore produces a deerskin flask from his bedroll. Then, uncorking it, he takes a long swig, spilling drink down his bushy red beard. Catching my stare, he extends his arm and offers me a taste. Thank you, I graciously decline. But the only spirits I am allowed to consume are in prayer. My attempt at humor has the desired effect on Lord Moore, who chuckles out loud, the innocent wit of a child. How refreshing in such apprehensive surroundings. I am beyond the coming of age, I belligerently declare. 2 years past, I retort. Splendid, he congratulates me. Then, you are no commoner, I perceive. I am the son of a nobleman sent to mission on God's calling. And what of your king's calling, boy? If it is God's will, then I will serve accordingly. The shaking of Lord Moore's head and broad shoulders mocking me belie the inner machinations of what most would label a heretic. However, Lord Moore's reputation as the king's most trusted servant serves to silence any criticism, on risk of retribution. To the king, Ben Moore is an untouchable subject, granted immunity from libel and slander. However, there has been, on several occasions, the king's trust in his friend put to the test, like when Lord Moore killed a monk in a monastery because the inebriated monk had physically accosted the daughter of Lord Moore's friend, the Earl of Lydney. It wasn't the killing of the monk that started tongues wagging. The dissent was primarily due to the shocked reaction caused by the monk being discovered in a small chapel of the monastery, nailed upside down naked to a large crucifix attached to a wall behind the altar, his entrails dangling like a butcher's sausage string, dripped coagulated blood that slowly drained into an overflowing silver chalice used for Sunday communion. When the king was informed of the atrocity, he summoned Lord Moore to his chambers and banished him for 1 single calendar year from Moore's own fiefdom. All rents in that period went directly to the crown. When the year was concluded, Lord Moore's rights and privileges were immediately restored, sparking whispers among the king's court of favoritism and privilege. To further add fuel to the tongue wagging, the king pardoned Moore, then gifted him additional lands to add to his already handsome portfolio. There is only the king's will and the will of the people, Lord Moore gargled between swigs of mead. God, if he exists, is merely a spectator to to the fallout of that mess he caused during those 7 days of boredom. If you have no faith, I point out, then does that also extend to the existence of the devil? I ask, in the self-interested attempt to keep his thoughts consciously working and awake. There are only devils in this world, boy. No single devil, but many walking amongst us. If you ever get to see what I have witnessed in my life, you will come to understand that evil is not supernatural. It is not the fallout of imaginary angels. It is solely a result of man's own lust and greed. I defeatedly watch Lord Moore adjust his knapsack as he prepares to rest. However, the night is still long, so I attempt to stir him from his approaching slumber. Are you going to kill another monk at Castle Divinity? I unashamedly ask. Perhaps I'll kill you, boy, if you interfere with my sleep any longer. I push my luck a little further and ask the unmentionable question. What did he do? The monk that you killed, what I killed him for, was not just out of retribution. He had a history of molestations against females and males alike. The final straw was just the last on a list of uncontrollable aberrations. The church protected him and confined him to the monastery's high walls. I made a pledge to a friend, and when Ben Moore pledges something, he delivers. His words trail off into slumbering mutterings of approaching dreams, leaving me alone in the waking world, in charge of the two men's safety. A faint snap of a twig emanating from the darkness grabs my attention. Poking at the fire, I resurrect a tall flame that widens the area of light. Then, without warning, the hairs on my arms stand up on end. I feel something or someone watching me from cloaked areas of the forest. "Who's there?" I call out. I look over to Father Beacon and then to Lord Moore, but they remain undisturbed, as if a spell has been cast upon them, incarcerating them in a form of sleep prison. "Don't be afraid," a female voice whispers from the edge of the light. "I mean you no harm. Quite the opposite," she clarifies. "I bring you an offering of everlasting pleasure." My eyes dart in the general direction of her voice, but it is not until she steps into the light that I can focus on her presence. Walking deliberately toward me, she is naked as the day I was born. Her shape is curvy, and her long hair manages to hide her modesty in the appropriate areas. To be exact, her long, fair hair is empathetically saving me from blushing my own modesty. "Tell me your deepest desire," she demands to know. "What doth a young buck like you want more than anything in this life?" "I want to serve God," I defensively reply. Her echoing laugh sees through my nervousness. After all, I am still of the male species, and she is divine, delectable, and attractively enchanting. Does the boy always answer for the man? I answer for myself, and I answer to God. So naive, she disapprovingly states. Where I come from, we only worship ourselves. Dropping to all fours, she assumes the gait of a four-legged animal, slowly swinging her hips as she approaches me. A stirring within creates a bead of perspiration to form over my brow. My mouth suddenly feels dry, creating a craving for refreshment. But Father Beacon holds the water satchel and is not within easy reach. Not that I can move, because I'm transfixed to my seated position, lost in two dreamlike, dark pools, drawing me deeper into the strange visitor's eyes. I try to muster a call to Lord Moore, but my tongue has somehow been silenced. There's no need to wake him, she said, before resting her chin on my lap. What I am about to do to you requires no audience. Do? I innocently ask, my vocal cords returning to normal operation. What are you going to do? My quivering trepidation seems to excite her, causing her to breathe deeply in through her nose as she rises to her feet, her unusually tall frame towering over me like a giant addressing a dwarf. Innocent child, she hisses. Why, I'm going to devour you. In the blink of one's eye, she transforms into the most hideous of creatures that nature has ever produced. Her hair, now solidifying into some form of sinew tissue, opens into a webbed membrane from behind her back. The ends resemble the tip of a thick, spiky holly leaf. Her face is now unrecognizable, looking more so like the skinless jaws of a forest wolf. Gone are the seductive eyes, replaced with fiery red slits of terror, focused entirely on an area below my right ear. I freeze in fear, unable to move, helpless to react, as her mouth opens wide, revealing pointy, sharp teeth throughout her salivating oral aperture. I say her, but there is no other label other than it to describe this hellish monster about to dine on me, tenderizing my face with each forced exhalation of foul air. I'm about to faint from the overwhelming fright when the creature suddenly jerks up in a howl-like stance as the tip of a long sword blade begins to protrude from its mouth. As reddish-brown liquid drips from its jaw onto my lap, the creature's head is abruptly severed from its shoulders with one swipe of the sword, causing an instant cacophony of screams and howls to cry out from the darkness surrounding me. Looking up, Lord Moore is standing above the decapitated corpse, wiping his blade clean with his cape. What happened? I croakily ask, as he throws a log onto the smoldering embers of the fire. You fell asleep, boy, and the fire almost went out. But how? I was awake? Beacon, I presume. Did he give you any food? Earlier? No, just a drink of water from his pouch. Why? You may have been an unwitting accomplice in the attempt on your life, Moore explains. However, bigger game was the intended kill. You were just the bonus sacrifice. I was the prey. You? Why? Presumably, a revenge kill for my killing one of their brotherhood. Do monks act out murderous deeds? I asked, not thinking clearly. Directly? No. But they are not shy of getting someone else to do their dirty work when necessary. I suddenly realize that Father Beacon is nowhere to be seen. Innocently believing that he must have panicked and ran when the beast attacked, I try to rally Lord Moore for a rescue mission. We should look for Father Beacon, I loyally suggest, right before a blood-chilling scream rings throughout the forest, shaking me to my core. No need. Lord Moore halts me as he gently restrains my worried reaction. Payment for failure has been taken. All that matters now is that we keep the fire burning strong until daybreak, which shouldn't be too far away. What was your business at Castle Divinity? I probingly ask. By King's order, I was to be Lord Protector for 3 months, as part of a penance for my deadly deed. Father Beacon was the emissary sent to deliver me to the castle. I hope and pray the king had no advance knowledge of what was planned. What if he did? I asked. Then I would have to choose between justice and survival. However, killing a king is not always healthy for one's future. You would kill a king? I would kill anyone that wronged me, Lord Moore bluntly replies, poking the fire for effect. I couldn't wipe the beast's image from my mind. Never have I encountered such a monstrosity. And I am curious, more than ever, for information. What was that creature? I ask. Neither natural nor supernatural, nor a celestial creation or heavenly rejection. These woods are older than time itself. Who knows what lives here? Whomever or whatever they are, light seems to be their enemy, and darkness their domain. Since a boy, I recollect stories of the danger of journeying through here at night. Many from these lands that ignored the peril have disappeared, never to be heard from again. Their disappearances have always been after dusk, so I found the decision to start our journey so late in the day a very curious and somewhat suspicious undertaking. The reason now transparent, I added. Indeed, boy. It seems that a most peculiar but fragile alliance was made to prevent me from reaching my destination. The consequences of that failure already evident. Exhausted from the excitement leaving my senses, I sit huddled with Lord Moore around the fire, trying to make sense of it all, but secure in the faith that the dancing flames will provide extra protection from those in the surrounding darkness that continue to encircle us. As I stare into the hypnotic dance of hot flames jaggedly stabbing at the thin early morning air, a breaking ray of light in the sky catches my attention. Nervous though I am, I stand up in front of the fire and point toward its direction. Lord Moore, look! I exclaim. Aye, boy. He welcomingly acknowledges my sharp observation. As soon as that light tops the trees, we return to our homes, more the wiser and more the grateful to breathe in the fresh air of a new day. What about Castle Divinity? I ask. It will still be there, he replies, when I pay a surprise visit next time, all for science. It's a jungle out here. I'd been warned. Predators and prey of every size and description around every corner. Anywhere can be breathtakingly beautiful and equally breathtakingly deadly. Stay alert to stay alive. Even with safeguards in place, I find myself in terrifying peril. Time's running out. The end is near. I fear no help is in the offering. I am on my own. No hope left. It's getting more and more difficult to breathe. Humidity so thick, it's like sucking a wet sponge. But I can't give up. Yet. I see my short life flashing before me. Might pass out soon. How can this be happening? Won a grant to study rainforest in Amazon, all for science. Far back as I can, remember I had a love for plants, instilled by my mother. Rest her soul. She raised exotic plants. So I wanted to emulate her, made it into a great university. Oh, that hurt. Can't think straight. Getting lightheaded. Most of my history will be found in my journals. When did I last make an entry? Right. When I arrived. Was going to add more tonight. Oh, well, best laid plans. He has me pinned right where he wants me, trembling in fear. Grip tightens. Oh, hope Adam knows I really did love him. Wanted to be his wife, but so ironic when I think about it now. How we were saving ourselves for marriage. Mutually agreed. The right thing to do with our bodies. Not give in to temptation and all that. Yeah, we made it to some bases, but overall, still a virgin. At 23, could have gotten married long ago, but we wanted our master degrees first. I tried to scream at first. Takes too much breath. Now, look at my body. I tried so hard. Stay in shape. Stay healthy. Exercise. Eat right. There'll be nothing left. A pith helmet and designer cargo pants, if that. Ow. Think that was a rib. That cracked. Snap, crackle, pop. If lung punctured, maybe put me out of misery sooner. Yes, yes. I should pray for that. Make this end, please. Oh, hurts so much. Get it over with. Already. Oh, must confess all my sins and beg forgiveness. Please forgive me for not serving you and my fellow man better. Thank you for saving grace. Remember me in your kingdom, please. So crook. 18. Think pleasant thoughts. Night first met Adam. Halloween party, college, junior year. Friend convinced me wear outlandish costume. A pleathery sleeping bag looking wrap that looked like a giant anaconda swallowing me whole. Ironic, right? Lower jaw pushed up my D-cup cleavage to my neck. Only my arms and head stuck out. Above the form-hugging, diamond-studded snakeskin created quite the shapely bulge 40 and 26-36. The upper jaw looked like a hoodie coming over my head. Adam and every other straight male took notice, but Adam's field of study is snakes. They're his passion, more so than me, I fear. He seemed jealous of my trip here. I only look at plants. He would have so many snakes to admire snakes. Believe. He would classify this charmer as a reticulated python. He has me wrapped in multiple coils, intending to make me his meal. I'm afraid, enjoying squeezing every last breath out of me until I pass out or die, making me easier to devour whole without a struggle. More bones he can break will make me slide down so much easier. It won't be long now, being crushed like a tin can. Everything hurts, breaths getting shallower, all alone on a hike, not far from camp. Stopped to examine flora. He dropped out of canopy above. Even if I looked up, he would resemble dripping vines. Was he stalking me, or I happened to stumble into his domain? Easy prey, fast delivery, knife strapped to my thigh. Once he had me in his grip. He moved so fast, I didn't stand a chance. Maybe butt dial help? Phone in my back pocket. Reached for it. Now, arms pinned behind me. Chest thrust out between coils. Pretty picture, no doubt. Oh, not to imagine the coming horror. Maws above me, already drooling, smells putrid. I can hear his forked tongue testing, tapping my pith helmet. It deflects saliva away from my face for now. It's strapped on. If he tries to dislodge it, my head may be ripped off too. Less misery for me. Please let this end. With each exhale, he takes up the space, crushing me more, making impossible to get air. Oh, the pain. Agonizing pain. Adam once told me. This guy is one of most efficient killers in world. Only the best. For me. Oh, don't laugh. Takes too much breath. He's getting more efficient. Once I pass out, he'll easily swallow me whole. Connective tissue allows jaws to open wide. He'll walk them over my head and face. Hope he chokes on helmet. Backward pointing fangs prevent me from escaping if I'm still alive. Sure, as if once prey in throat. Strong muscular contractions work mass down through long esophagus into juicy, thick stomach, all prepared for heavy task of digestion. May slow him down several days. My body quivering in terror. Carnivorous, 100%. No flora for him. Can swallow prey much larger, thicker than himself. He'll bathe it in lots of slimy, acidic juices and digest everything except hair and nails, things with keratin. Those will be expelled as pellets. Wonder about cargo pants and hiking boots? Someone someday find pile of designer scat? I'm such a comedian sometimes. Maybe I'll taste funny, so he'll spit me out. Don't wanna be snake food. Oh. Skalda, is someone over there? Behind those ferns? Help me, please. Fading fast. Out of time. Hello, Eve, my love. Imagine finding you here, hanging out with a serpent. You're turning a bit purple. Oh, Adam. Thank goodness. Save me. Can't breathe. He's breaking every bone. The pain is unbearable. Destroy this monster. Let me beat him with this stick. Let go of her, you horrible purple people eater. Sorry, not working, doll. Can't say I didn't try. Besides, how could I possibly forgive myself for destroying such a magnificent specimen? He's only doing what comes naturally. You look like a piece of meat to him. can't blame him. He's made a delectable selection. Just look at the way he is working you over. Kind of like the way you twisted everything around in your journal I found back home when I was watering your plants. You were ready to dump me after all our dreams and plans, simply because I gave in to temptation and bedded that perky waitress. She didn't deny me any of her body, unlike you. Oh, can't touch this. Now who is touching you everywhere? And you expect me to save you? Adam, please, can't last much longer. The end is near. Tell you what, sweetheart. How about I make you a movie star? You look hotter than I have ever seen you, all coiled up, cozy-like, with that hungry python. Your boobs are sticking out between the coils and look good enough to eat. Oh, that is his plan, all right. Such a tasty morsel for him. I'm gonna film it all in the name of research. The eating and mating habits of the reticulated python. My favorite subject. It will pay for this nice little vacation I granted myself. But he'll get a good portion of that too. Let me help him out by taking off that ridiculous hat and those heavy boots. Maybe I can slip off those long pants as you are slipping down the hatch. Don't want to be too hard on his delicate system. Hard enough swallowing a prickly prude. Smile pretty for the camera. Look like you are enjoying this once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's all for science. There you go now. You'll make a sexy, shapely bulge in his belly, my dear. You'll stay alive for a few hours. Be sure to thrash around in all the sweet, smelling bile. He'll like that. Gives him satisfaction. And it'll speed up the digestion so the burning won't last as long. I did mention it's gonna burn a bit, didn't I? Have fun. The end of Eve as we knew her. Epilogue. Adam. I'm funning with you folks. Of course. I waited a couple of hours, then showed up at her camp where they were missing poor Eve. I led a search party, and we happened upon this large, long, legless lizard, lounging languidly along a sunny ledge with a bulging bobble about the belly. In the name of science, we opened it up and found a slime-covered beet red, boiling mad, but still beautiful, busty, blonde botanist. She never would marry me, but she made a fortune telling her tale of what it felt like to be swallowed whole, and my secret porn video went viral. All for science, you understand. A decently modest proposal. Hey you. Yes, you. Reading this story. Don't worry. This isn't some piece of meta-fiction. I'm dictating what I say to a gracious volunteer who will post it for me. I've got an offer for you. And no, not like a door-to-door salesman peddling dull kitchen knives or what have you. You see, my offer is as genuine as a baby's first laugh. My name is Donald Basemore Cooper. Quite a mouthful, I know. My friends call me Donnie, DB, Coop, Basement, and so on. Take your pick. They're like paint samples. But the people I do business with, oh, they call me a lifesaver. Believe it or not, old Donnie here knows a thing or two about you. I'd wager 9 out of 10 of the people reading this are sitting down. Maybe you're lucky, number 10 though, standing up at work, browsing your phone, blessed enough to have clicked this offer. Maybe your job doesn't let you sit down like a cashier or that guy who takes the stubs off movie tickets. Regardless, whether you're sitting or standing, you'll realize that your feet probably hurt. Maybe a little, maybe a lot. Maybe sitting down is just a temporary oasis from the desert of swollen soles and pained pinky toes. But we've all been there. We all know what it's like to have our dogs barking. Think about it. From the moment you were born, your mommy or your daddy had a countdown going for the day you'd take your first steps. Maybe they even filmed it, a joyous occasion to look back on. But was it really? Because after that, you might have found walking fun for a year or two. Then you might have graduated to running, sweating off the sugar highs you'd get from your candies and such. But at some point, I'm confident walking and running just became, vanilla, plain and simple, boring even. Hell, I'm taking it one proverbial step further and guessing it's just plain tiring too. Now, as an adult, say you can't find a parking space close to where you need to go. Now you gotta walk. Or maybe the bus station isn't that close to where you work. We haven't exactly designed cities around those of us without cars. Maybe your job keeps you on your toes. Go run this. Go clean this. Go serve that table of assholes their food, knowing they won't tip you. More walking, and even if you try and relax on a weekend, guess what? How long can you last until you go shopping at a store, or even a mega shopping center, floor after floor, dedicated to glorious capitalism, a shrine to enjoyment and consumerism? But your feet will have hell to pay. And I know I can hear some of you thinking to yourselves, but Donnie, I like to walk, run, and jog. Hell, I eat marathons for breakfast. I hear you. I promise you still gotta listen to my offer. You see, why do we do those things? If you ask me, it boils down to 3 different reasons. First reason, maybe you like an early morning stroll through the woods because you gotta de-stress. It's calming, serene, reminds you of your mama's womb. I get that. But it can't be the only way you know how to de-stress. I'm sure your buddies, the bed and the couch, would like to chime in. and remind you how relaxing they are. And if you still want to be in nature, watch a bird or two. Park benches are right there, singing a siren song to rest your feet. Second reason, weight loss. You want to be sexy. You want to look thin. You gotta shave those pounds off of you. But I'm sorry to say, it's really all a sham. Society made up these rules as to who counts as hot, who gets to be on the big screens and such. They want you to look thin because there's more money for them in looking thin. Exercise machines, designer clothes, beauty products, all that costs way more than a bag of chips and cookie dough, if you know what I'm saying. And then they have the gall to make food so tasty, yet so fattening, to keep this endless cycle going. You pay money to get thin, only to pay money to get fattened again. That's the secret to beauty. It's just money wearing a mask. Don't fall for it. Live how you want. Don't worry about running to get thin. Reason the third. Maybe you run for sport. You know, it happens. You could have had a lazy eye and couldn't hit or throw a ball right. But boy, howdy, you sure could run like hell in a straight line. Now, your pal Coop here wasn't much of an athlete. Most of my running came from evading the school bullies, who are now, hopefully, adult has-beens and burnouts. But that spirit of competition is a wonderful thing. It's food for the heart and soul. But it won't last. Sooner or later, your body gives out, and you'll just be yearning for the glory days, like a college alum still visiting their frat house on homecoming. You can't run forever, so you see where I'm coming from now? Almost everyone reading this declaration of mine is going to tragically fall victim to one day being so pained, so hurt, so egregiously tired, all from walking. Biologically speaking, we aren't even designed to be standing up straight for so long. Our spines are an affront to God, if anything. So, what do we do? What is Mr. Basemore Cooper here leading up to? What is my offer to you, my dear reader? Well, let me tell you a story. Growing up, my grandfather, or my Boompa, as I called him, lived on his own. He'd come visit me, walking up the 3 stone steps to my house, back and knee pains the whole time. Of course, I didn't know at the time how much he hurt. He was just Boompa to me, so friendly, so kind, bringing over an apple or two to help keep the doctor away for me, you know? As a kid, I'd run around the house or the yard, trying to play with Boompa, never realizing how he struggled to catch up. Then, inside, I'd jump on his lap as he sought relief on our couch. He's the one who taught me my dogs are barking instead of saying my feet hurt. Hell, he'd put a spin on it with, the whole pound is a barking Donnie, and then he'd leave. to go home to his apartment, up several flights of stairs, all by himself. And I'd beg him to stay. Please, Boompa, I want to play every day. And I'd wonder why my parents were just letting him go off by himself. In retrospect, it's even worse. They had to have known his legs were hurting, but they basically kicked him out into the cold every time he finished visiting. Why couldn't Boompa just live with us? Would it really have been that hard? Don't you get ahead of yourselves, dear readers. There isn't some skeleton in Boompa's closet. No sins of the grandfather. No wicked reason why baby Donald couldn't see him every day. The real reason? Independence. As long as he could walk, he insisted on taking care of himself, living on his own, and thus seeing me only a dozen times a year. Tragic, right? Your hearts must be breaking. Boo-hoo for Donnie. Nah, I should get that I was still lucky to even have Boompa. But you know who wasn't lucky? Boompa. Knees sore, feet aching. A lifetime of walking amounting to chronic pain. It really shouldn't be a surprise that he couldn't cross the street at a normal speed. So if you think about the number of stupid people combined with the number of impatient people in this country, it was really only a matter of time. Boompa couldn't possibly react fast enough to that car. Don't grab your tissues and start weeping. He lived. It's actually funny how tires crushing your bones, grinding your flesh, and spilling your blood across the pavement isn't enough to kill you sometimes. I wonder if Boompa found it funny too, lying there, waiting for the ambulance, dragging himself away from the mangled remains of his legs. Just a clean cut, the kind that would make a butcher blush with how precise it was. Just like that. No more legs and feet to hurt. Just like that. Boompa was at home. My home. To live with us. I could talk to him all day. My parents would take care of him, and he'd never have to walk again in his wheelchair. I couldn't be happier that he lived out the last few years of his life with us, fully provided for and loved. I'm sure he'd agree. I'll have to ask him when I go to heaven. And we could have had all that for longer if he had just gotten rid of his legs sooner. Don't you think? What I'm proposing is a free service, all done by me on the house, to give yourself the same kind of life Boompa had at the end. Fully taken care of, free from the stress of walking. You'll find new ways to relax, new games to play to pass the time, and losing weight? Well, a leg is a little under a fifth of your weight, so losing both? You're talking upwards of 50 pounds off, all at once. Way more efficient that exercise ever could be. Come on, working out is hell. All the sweat and the pains and finding time to do it. I'm telling you, my offer is way better than that. You might be hesitant because you don't have a spare wheelchair lying around. No worries. Part of the service is that I'll help you procure one suited just to your needs. What about housing? Making sure you can still move around. Your boy Donnie is right here. We can rearrange your house to be a more wheelchair-friendly space. What's that? Your job? Going out in public? Right now, I'm working on pushing the government to pass legislature to increase disability pay. Most public places have to be wheelchair accessible already, but with an increase to monthly payments, you'll have more than enough free money to use on both living and entertainment. You'll see, it really won't be a big deal to use ride-sharing services once you have the money from selling your car. How is the procedure done? Well, there are too many hoops to jump through to doing this in a hospital. God forbid us red-blooded Americans exercising the freedom we've been promised. I'll gladly come to your house instead. Just give me your address, and we'll pick a time that works best for you. Maybe you want the kids out of the house. Maybe you've been looking for an excuse to get off of work on a Monday. Certainly won't be going back to that job after we're done. I've got my bag of tools with me here. We've got some chloroform here, a new set of rags, some ropes too. I find it decreases the squirming if you happen to wake up. You don't have to worry about carpet stains either. I'll throw down a tarp. We could even set you up in bed for maximum comfort as well. Then you've got your choice of tool. The chainsaw is a wonderful choice for those horror fanatics out there. Plus, the noise will drown out any screaming that might occur. Again, if you wake up. But maybe you want quick and painless, or at least as painless as possible. That's where the elegant Japanese katana comes in, fully capable of slicing through bone. Maybe you want to savor the moment you give into a lifetime of relaxation and sitting. Or maybe you find your jollies from a little bit of pain here and there. No judgment here. But I've still got my trusty hacksaw here, still good to go from the first time I did this procedure. Now the forums will tell you that a bone saw might cut better, but ignore that hogwash. With enough elbow grease and a can-do attitude, my hacksaw and I will easily get your legs on a one-way trip to Aruba. Never to bother you again. Don't you worry a hair on your pretty head. I know what I'm doing here. It's not my first rodeo. I've had plenty of satisfied customers in the past. It does take a little convincing, but if you met me in person, my pearly white smile would knock your socks off. Be warned, ladies, I'm quite the charmer. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up chit-chatting mid-procedure too. Why, yes, I'd love to take you out to dinner in your fine new wheelchair this Friday. I'll hold the door open for you and make sure you get home safe before I lift you and tuck you into bed, nice and snug. Now, in full honesty, not everyone is fully on board with this procedure yet. But I really am doing people a huge favor here. The couple of times they hesitated to say yes didn't stop me from grabbing the old chloroform here. I remember this one gentleman, surely an upstanding and strong man, didn't hesitate to start crying and begging me to stop once he was tied down. Those tears reminded me a lot of myself when I used to cry when Boompa left. Oh, how things got better for me. And soon they'd get better for him too. In fact, this young gentleman typing this all out is my latest customer. You see, I'm not the best with computers, so we cut a deal. He could keep one of his legs if he helped me spread my word far and wide. So here we are. If only you could see him hobble, a little tear in his eye. There won't be any tears once he moves into his wheelchair, with my help, of course. I'm not a monster, after all. So folks, if you're interested in changing your life for the better, taking a stand against pain by sitting down permanently, then I'm your man. For Donald Basemore Cooper, call 555-NO-LEGS for me. You want to be free? Call your pal DB and make sure you hold on to those legs once they're off you. Because I've got a great home recipe to share with you in the kitchen.